Welcome back. Since inception, XPrize has been setting some audacious goals. We caught up with XPrize CEO Marcus Shingles to understand what XPrize calls taking the moonshot. Thanks for taking out the time and talking to us.
Pleasure.
Could you tell me a little bit about XPrize Foundation?
A lot of people think that what XPrize does is that we just launch these competitions. Like we send out an email to the world and say, hey, here's a problem. If you can solve it, you win.
Right.
But it's important to understand some of the science and ingenuity that goes into exactly what we're designing. It's more of an instrument for change, to try to harness innovation through game mechanics, through gamification.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do at XPrize is how do we harness the wisdom of the world,
Right.
the genius of the crowd, we call it. How do we harness that to get individuals across the world to create small teams to collectively all try to solve a grand challenge that we as a world really need to solve?
You know, a lot of people say when it comes to XPrize, it's really audacious in terms of, the kind of problems it tries to solve, be it sort of, trying to, encourage innovators out there to design a rover, to be sent to moon and send back pictures, or be it sort of, designing apps or whatever else, because it's solution agnostic, to help solve the problem or the issues of, issues like women's safety and clean water. So talk to us a little bit about, the kind of bold and audacious goals that XPrize sets for innovators.
We know that the exponential curve of technology is trending towards this, which might sound like science fiction, but we know it's science reality. We just are playing ahead of the curve.
Right.
And so when we put an XPrize out there, we're trying to stretch the bounds of art and science, but we're igniting experimentation using things like progressive techniques of artificial intelligence, or 3D printed, or biotech, or nanotech. Or advanced robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality. These are all the exponential trends of technology that we know are trending in a way much faster than our linear minds comprehend. So we put an XPrize out there.
But then there are a lot of ideas, which fail. Failure is also an important aspect of trying to create something, trying to come up with a solution. So to that extent, when it comes to how should an innovator perhaps who's tried, but has failed, should stay motivated?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, we've introduced at XPrize, not for every competition, for the ones that it's conducive, to have what we call a bold ingenious failure award. So we announce an XPrize.
Okay.
You look at the XPrize and you think to yourself, you know what? I have such a crazy idea, but it's a legitimate idea.
Right.
And I could try to win that XPrize.
Yeah.
But probability is I'm not going to hit it because maybe my thinking is ahead of its time.
Right.
So we want to incentivize you still to compete. Because what we're doing as a nonprofit is we're just trying to float all boats, and we're trying to get the ingenuity going, the innovation going.
Right.
So in that model, if you see that there's a bold ingenious failure award, which is a little bit of a play on words, but it's saying failure is not the opposite of success. It actually helps us define the parameters of what success could look like.
Right.
So we want you in the mix. We want you competing in the XPrize. Even if you don't hit those specific metrics that we need to qualify as the XPrize winner, at this point in time, you demonstrated that you did something bold and ingenious.
Yes.
And even though you quote unquote failed, that's a badge of honor. If you can do it fast, if you recognize and you cut your losses, you do it cheap, right? You don't spend a lot of money producing that failure, and you fail forward, meaning you don't make the same mistake again. Quite frankly, that is the only way you're going to iterate. If you don't ever fail in your experimentation with how progressive technology is becoming and how innovative it is, if you don't ever fail, it means you're never stretching the limits. So if you and I teamed up in a startup together and we created something and we didn't have one failure, we can probably assume that even though we think we're good, we're just not great.
Right.
Because we don't know what the parameters are.
As you were saying, fail fast, fail cheap, and fail forward. And on that note, I will wrap up this interview. Incentivizing solutions and challenging the world to solve it. Next up, meet Paresh Gilani, XPrize trustee and someone who was instrumental in XPrize coming to India. What took so long for XPrize to come to India?
Well, it really started from my involvement right around 2011. This is when I was about to exit my company, and Naveen, good friend of mine you met, asked me a question. He goes, young man, what are you going to do now? Because now you're actually exiting your company. You're going to have resources and a lot of time. For me, I was like paused it, and I knew exactly that I did not want to do was create another company for financial goals only. And it goes back to quite a bit, 20 years back when in '94, when I came to India and actually came in and said, I looked around because this is the first time I had visited after my family had migrated to US, and looked at it, and I found appalling that how pollution of air pollution and noise pollution was so crazy. You know, when you look at it from outside coming in, it looks different. When you live here, you kind of get used to it. But when you look at it from outside, it's all like, wow, there's a lot to be done here. That's when I came up with a idea of saying, what about electric scooters and rickshaws? Because those are the highest polluter. If you can eliminate that, that's 50% of the pollution caused, at least in the major cities.
Sure.
So I went on a path of doing that, which I found it. I took the rickshaw and a scooter from here back to US. I retrofitted it. I just had made my money on a first small company that I made, put all the money in it, and I built it. I got the prototype, brought it to India, and figured out, well, I have the product, but how do you go about it? I think it was a little too early. People didn't get it. I don't think India or the world were ready to, at least particularly in India, through bold ideas of something like you can completely disrupt it, on top of, forget the political environment, but even the private citizens weren't ready to think that out of the box. A very dear friend of mine told me, XPrize, your ideas and this kind of things will be understood back where you're from, US, So I left, I wouldn't want to call it a failure, but I learned something, like, it's not that I have a bad idea. It's just that the environmental was around, people weren't ready. Time hadn't come as far as people weren't ready to have bold ideas come from no name. Has it come from Tatas or Birlas or Mahindras? They will say, oh, this is a crazy, great idea. Comes from a nobody. So on my way back, I really decided, because, not when, or, not if, it's when I'm going to go and create this platform for back to India.
And the time seems to be absolutely perfect, because I mean, if you look at the entrepreneurship scenario in the country at this point in time, you have a huge number of entrepreneurs coming up with all kinds of ideas, be it apps or e-commerce platforms, or other hardware based startups as well, and coming up with all kinds of products and solutions to all kinds of problems. And so in that sense, perhaps this is the right time to be in India and launch XPrize here. And of course also the model which you were talking about, the philanthropy. And
I think it's an amazing time, right? Because I think so far historically, we as an Indian, this is my motherland, right? We as an Indian, almost like a herd mentality type. Something's been followed, you keep following and stuff. You take us out of this particular environment, put us into the different environment like America, you become an innovator, right? So we've been so much clogged into you cannot do, right? So you just need to give them a freedom, As India has a tremendous knowledge of they're smart, they're pure, they don't give up, entrepreneur, we all here. We just needed a platform to do it.
Absolutely.
I think slowly it's moving, right? And so I think it's about time, and I think this generation is actually taking chances and it's saying, you know what, I think India shouldn't wait for the world to innovate and actually give it to us. We can't just always import innovation. We maybe actually have a person sitting in Varanasi actually has a solution how to clean it. We just need to let them know, come to this platform and do it, because you know what? There's a large reward for it. The world would appreciate it, because now all of a sudden your 50, 100 crore will go such a long way. You're buying a solution, not maybe solution, right? So it's a slightly different way of thinking, and I think that's why I'm passionate about India. Having the XPrize sort of platform, and all platform who actually can spur the innovation, and we need to get out of the mentality of something. What do you fail? You never fail. If you're an entrepreneur, you persist, you never fail. As long as you keep going at it, you don't fail.
It's just a stepping stone problem.
Stepping stone. Like I said, I brought in the electric scooters and didn't work out. I wasn't failed. I think I succeeded. I learned a lot. I went back and had a really passion
Got
to
to
make
practice your broken Hindi as well.
Yeah, I think I've done better. My friends won't agree, but yeah. But I was able to actually learn a lot from it, and I had a motivation to build it in other companies to make sure I have enough resources to come back and do this. So for me, it's a full circle. Come back here to India and launch the innovation platform, as well as do something good. So you can really do well by doing good.
On that note. Pleasure. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very
so
much. Appreciate it. Look forward.
Solutions can come from anyone and anywhere. Key is to bring the untapped talent on board. With that, we have come to the end of the show. Until next time, from the entire team and me, goodbye and thanks for watching.
Catch the heads-up episodes you might have missed during the week at these times only on NDTV Prime.